What's up, YouTube? Capital G here, letting you guys know what the heck happened at the 2018 Yu-Gi-Oh! European Championships in Berlin, Germany. I spent my weekend reading up on the coverage and really watching a whole bunch of the live streams so that you didn't have to. So this was an event that, in my opinion, just it cemented a lot of what we learned from the NAWCQ, and I think even pushed it a little forward. I would say that this event definitely went according to the plan. If most people were given, I don't know, two guesses as to what was the most represented deck in the top cut, what was in the finals, if I told you there was two different decks, I think that 95% of Yu-Gi-Oh players would have been able to guess it. That's not to say that there weren't some interesting takeaways and storylines from this event. Number one, and I always like to talk about this whenever I talk about a high level premier event, whether it be, you know, a YCS or Euros or the NAWCQ, is of course the attendance. And the attendance for this event was absolutely magnificent. Those damn European players showed up in droves. So over 1,600 players actually entered the event, and if you guys have not been keeping track, this is now the largest Yu-Gi-Oh! European Championship in history. I believe it was 1,624 to be exact, and it's crazy because the numbers say right here that a qualified total was 4,400, so roughly 1 in 3 players who could actually enter the event did go and enter the event, and that's definitely good, especially when this format is, can I say, kind of dice rolly. I mean, it seems like whoever wins the dice roll has a huge advantage going first, especially considering it seems like a lot of the decks that are powerful right now are kind of mediocre going second, so I think that that's just really, really good, and it shows people are obviously excited. And I always give big props to the European players especially, and I say that because there are a lot of things that they have to deal with just because the continent of Europe is broken down into so many different countries, especially if you're in that unfortunate age range where you're too young for dragon duels but you're too old to really be considered an adult. Maybe that 15 to like 17 age range, traveling from different countries in Europe. You know, maybe you live in like Italy or Spain. There's different languages, there's different currencies. Not everywhere uses euros. Some places in Europe uses like pounds and stuff like that. In the NA, North America, we really just have 3 countries. It's just like, the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So the travel is a little easier, maybe just a passport, and that's pretty much it. You're not going to deal with that many languages other than, English and Spanish, maybe a little bit of French, but it's just so much more difficult there. So big props to the European players who actually ended up showing up and obviously showing out. Now, when it comes to the winner of the event right here, Luke Parts, he played Gouki, 25 years old, definitely a little different than what we saw with Gabe last week and the NAWCQ, who was only 16. Kid's not even old enough to really drive yet, and he wins the NAWCQ. But this guy is obviously a grown man. Children's card game, I think not. Well, I guess Gabe is still considered a child. But anyways, let's move on to the top 64. This was pretty much what was expected, in my opinion. I said that, last week, I think that the format has pretty much shaped itself into kind of like a 2-deck format where I'm talking about 2 decks that are obviously head and shoulders above everything else. Although we have seen probably in the past couple of weeks, and this is debatable, maybe Gouki is now the best deck of the format. Gouki had a little bit better representation in the top cut. Gouki ended up winning the event. Gouki was in the finals where it played against the Sky Striker Trickstar deck, but Gouki, and this is a crazy statistic that I didn't even believe that they calculated it, but they said that Gouki had a head-to-head matchup advantage in the Trickstar Sky Striker match, where I think Gouki won about 59% of those matches to the 41% of Sky Strikers. So I don't know why they keep track of that, but definitely big ups to the Konami staff in Europe. Those guys they do so much good work over there, and it's really appreciated. So you see Gouki with 21, Sky Striker Trickstar with 17. So yeah, it's kind of like a coin flip. I would say that these two are probably the tier 1 decks of the format, and then everything else, Burning Abyss, your pure Sky Strikers. Maybe you throw in Dinosaurs and Altergeist. Those are probably like your decks that are on the tier 1.5 to tier 2 status. You had some other decks in there, Burning Abyss and Dinosaurs, actually taking up 8 out of the top 64. I believe that Burning Abyss and its resurgence right now is 100% thanks to Thomas Rose, who they actually had on the coverage. Damn, I should have had a picture of Thomas Rose. He did such a good job when it came to the commentary. He commentated all the weekend, or all throughout the entire weekend for Euros, and he was just so knowledgeable, man. Such a smart player. I think that most of these were probably the Second Light build because it's just so good, man. It's such a strong deck. Now, the Dinosaurs was a little surprising, but Obviously, there's a card like Ultimate Conductor Terreno that was so strong. They did have a Dinosaur Paleozoic deck in top 32. Not sure if that falls under Paleo or Dinosaur. I'd imagine Dinosaur. And one of the really strong cards in the Dinosaur deck is Survival's End. It destroys all normal monsters on the field, and that could be so useful to counter a card like Scapegoat. Scapegoat is a card that a lot of times Trickstar Sky Strikers will win off of it because it provides them with so much damage, especially when you have a Candina. Candina gets Lyco Risk. Trickstar Light Stage adds more burn damage on top of that. Like being able to one card stop all of your opponent's Trickstar or your opponent's Scapegoat plays, pretty damn nice, especially considering you can use it a second time from your graveyard. He probably would have made it all the way to the top 16. He did lose in the top 32 against Gouki in a game 3. He probably would have won that match if his back row cards had been something better. I believe he had Olenoids, which is probably the MST one. I know that that card is 100% dead against Gouki, unless they activate one of the equip spells like Living Fossil or something like that. But in general, if those would have been different spells, I don't know, Anti-Spell Fragrance, or, I mean, what other cards could have helped? Goes in Match, Solemn Strikes. If those had been real trap cards, like, he probably would have won. Hell, even if they just would have been different Paleos, like the Book of Moon Paleo, or, had it been Dino Miscus, the Karma Cup Paleo, like, he probably ends up winning that duel. Now, interesting enough, I think that when it comes to the cards of the entire event, like these were the superstars of the event, one card, in my opinion, definitely stands above everything else, and that is Neospatian Aqua Dolphin. I talked about it last week at the What the Heck Happened at the NAWCQ event. I think the reason that you're starting to see so many weird cards pop up in the Gouki, and now you can probably say that this is arguably a staple in the Gouki deck, is because Gouki are the only deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now that you can argue can just win the game off of 2 cards. If you open with 5 cards and a Gouki player just is able to get to, maybe just Terra Top into Invoker gets, another Gouki from the deck, Suplex, go into Isode. Once you get to Isode, if you're not interrupted with Gouki, you basically win the duel. Isode gives you too much advantage. The game is over. You extra link Firewall from there, and your opponent's not going to be able to play, and it's the only deck that can just do that with 2 cards. So I think Gouki players are like, look, we don't need all 5 cards to win the duel. We only need 2 of them. So we're willing to play things like Drag Down. We're willing to play Aqua Dolphin to disrupt our opponent, basically to force our plays through, to make sure that we don't have to deal with a Winter Cherries. Well, you can Winter Cherries this, but to make sure you don't have to deal with an Ash Blossom, or you don't have to deal with a Droll and Lockbird, cards that can shut you down. And one thing I have to say, I did not realize this about Aqua Dolphin, that freaking burn damage effect is so important, especially when you consider that these Gouki plays take like 10 minutes to do, and if you're going first and you take 10 minutes off the clock, then you go third and you're going first in game 3 and you take another 10 minutes off the clock, it is very possible for you to be an end of match procedure if you go first in game 3. That's exactly what happened in the finals versus Sky Striker Trickstar. And the ultimate irony of the entire event, this might be the most ironic thing to ever happen to Trickstars ever, is he burnt the Trickstar player to death in the end of match during his main phase with the Neospatian Aqua Dolphin. He used the effect, he burns him for 500 damage. Trickstar can't do anything, and GG no re, he ends up winning the duel. This card can be summoned off of Nightmare Goblin. This card can be summoned off Firewall Dragon, or you can just normal summon it and, activate Instant Fusion because it is a level 3 warrior. You can still get into Invoker, then Invoker goes to Isode, win the game. The second card that I really think has just been showing out over the past couple of weeks, and really I think the play has actually just gone up since the NAWCQ, is Called by the Grave. If you start looking at some of these Sky Striker Trickstar variants, these players are running 3 copies of this card. They're running 3 of these in Gouki. I saw a lot of Gouki players running 2. Now most of them have bumped it up into 3. Thomas Rose said it perfectly. He's like, it's really just important to push your play through, especially if you're playing Gouki. Like, it's more important at going first. Forget about, trying to stop your opponent during their turn. Like, push your play through, extra link them, and then just know that you win the duel. Know that you have a Firewall bounce, you have a Tri-Gate Wizard, your opponent can't summon anything from their extra deck, and you basically have enough damage on board to just win the duel, and you have a banish from Tri-Gate Wizard. Like, this card allows you to push your plays through. Sometimes you can use it, as a disruptor to, like, Monster Reborn, the Soul Charge, to, anything that, like, targets in the graveyard. But for the most part, this is used as a hand trap stopper. And it's interesting because when this card first came out, people were hesitant to run it. Then it was, seen in the side decks. And I said that this was the hand trap killer, and I didn't even know that that would actually happen. But yeah, this card is now, like, officially the hand trap killer. People are not running 1 or 2 copies in the main. People people are straight up maxing on this card because pushing your plays through against Droll and Ash and Winter Cherries is just too damn important right now in Yu-Gi-Oh! And really the only thing that plays around this is Infinite Impermanence, which is another card that Trickstar players are like maxing out on because they're like, hey, you can't call by the grave this. It does stop your opponent from, you know, being able to do something, and it's a card you can actually set on the field as well. Now, when it comes to some other interesting things to note, and actually let me check my time right quick. Okay, I'm doing good on time. Konami did reveal some new Noble Knight cards that are going to be coming out in Cybernetic Horizon. This is interesting because they talked about the Danger archetype at the NAWCQ, and I wonder, could this mean that we're not getting a second TCG exclusive archetype for the next 4 sets? Does this mean Konami's going to double dip on some of the past ones? Could we be seeing more Cosmos supports? Are they going to, you know, make a whole bunch of new Noble Knight cards? But we do know 4 are going to be coming out. If I was going to guess, I'd say this is probably not a monster because that's Madrat. I'm thinking that this is a spell card, a new Noble Arms card. I think that this, their new boss monster, well, I can't say it's their new boss monster. I don't know what it is, but I would guess it's a boss monster. I think it could be either a Link 3 or a Synchro. I don't think it's gonna be another Exceed. It just looks it looks too damn big. Looks like it's gonna have like 3,000 attack or something like that. My man's got the golden hair, the sword, the horse. He's got the cape on the horse and everything. Then you have 2 versions of who I'm calling Dante. Noble Knight Dante. That would be nuts if it's just Dante in Noble Knight armor. Dante's been everywhere in Yu-Gi-Oh, man. So I think that one of these might be an Exceed, probably this one. And then this one will probably be a main deck monster. But I do find it interesting that Konami is using, I guess, 4 spots on Noble Knights. And then Danger are getting like, what, 5 cards, 6 cards? So I mean, is that all of our TCG exclusives? Are we not going to have any more? Will there be no imports? Like, what do you guys think? And then also, I guess the last thing is, a lot of people have now been noting that, hey, Gouki won Euros and they won the NAWCQ. Is it time for them to get slapped in the head by that ban hammer? We already know that Go and Yu-Gi-Oh! Brains has moved on to a different deck. He's moved on to the Wrestling Dinosaurs. So Gouki they're not getting any more cards. So there's no reason for Konami to keep them as like the best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! Konami could obviously hit them, although I guess we haven't gotten all the promos yet, but it's not like those are going to change how much people actually want the cards. Maybe this is the time where Konami says, all right, we're banning Rematch, we're gonna ban Isode, or I mean, who am I kidding? They're not gonna fucking hit Firewall Dragon. But do you guys believe that Gouki need a hit? Do you guys believe it should be Firewall Dragon, or should it be something else in the archetype? To me, and I put Rematch on my top 10 broken Yu-Gi-Oh cards that are stuck in terrible archetypes. Well, Gouki are obviously the best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh now, so maybe not terrible, but I did put it on my list, and I said if you look at Rematch fundamentally, it's like a broken card. It basically is Infernity Barrier, and the monsters you summon back float, so that's kind of nuts, and then the entire archetype can search it. I could see Rematch actually getting banned because I think it just makes, it's the most sensible hit in the archetype. But now, I'm rambling too much. Let me know what you guys think, whether it's the dominance of Gouki, whether it's these new Noble Knight cards, whether it's the staggering attendance, where we just broke the record for largest European championship ever. Let me know whatever you guys thought in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos.